Mustafa's great uncle. Took us right up the side of this mountain, and we were going around rocks and above cliffs and below cliffs. It was like a trail. And I'm tired and I'm winded. When are we going to see the Ark? And then all of a sudden you look down and here's this huge, awesome ship sitting below you in this fog. You know, it's almost like, you picture a dream. And there it is.
In 1959, we were flying jet fighters over Mount Ararat when we spotted what was said to be Noah's Ark. It appeared to be a barge-like structure, a large boxcar type design, and it definitely appeared to be man-made.
High on a mountaintop in eastern Turkey, hidden beneath an icy glacier, is an important link to our distant past. Reports say it is a 5,000-year-old wooden ship with stalls and cages on board. Tonight, from actual eyewitnesses, you will discover for the first time the real truth behind the age-old legend of Noah's Ark. You will witness never-before-seen aerial photos and satellite images that provide amazing new proof about the mystery that lies high atop Mount Ararat. You will hear fascinating eyewitness accounts from people who themselves have seen and photographed the ancient ship. By the end of this program, we'll know for the first time answers to questions that have puzzled historians for thousands of years. Could the ancient legends be true? Is this Noah's Ark?
We are about to embark on a journey to find the answers to these and many other intriguing questions. Is there any proof that a massive worldwide flood really happened, as the Bible claims? What new findings does modern technology, from satellite photography to the laboratory, offer in our quest of the Ark? How did Noah build his great boat? And what was it like for him and his family to face the greatest catastrophe the world has ever known? Who are these people who say they have actually seen the Ark of Noah? What photographic evidence or other proof do they have to back up their claims? Stay with us for a front row seat to the amazing first-hand discovery of the fabled Noah's Ark. I'm Darren McGavin, inviting you to take part in perhaps solving the greatest and most intriguing mystery since the beginning of mankind. Our search for the Ark of Noah is not meant to be a religious mission. Above all, this is an archaeological quest to determine if this ancient mystery is truth or fable. Ultimately, our quest is to find the Ark itself. The Ark is probably the best known and most debated religious artifact in the world. Ark researchers and scholars have raised many serious and controversial questions.
Were thousands of animals actually taken on board an immense boat to survive a devastating flood? How could one boat, even an immense one, shelter all the species of the animals in the world today? How could 8 people have cared for and fed all of those animals at sea during that entire year?
Why do we get some reports that people have claimed to have seen the Ark on Mount Ararat, yet dozens of well-financed expeditions have gone up there looking for it and have come back empty-handed? Either it's up there or it's not.
Are the reported sightings of the Ark on Mount Ararat in Turkey the delusions of religious fanatics? Are they perhaps just innocently mistaken eyewitness reports? If so, how can we account for the ancient wood and artifacts found high on this treeless mountain? For many years, we thought the ultimate answers to these questions were lost to the ages. But now modern scientific technology and new archaeological explorations are beginning to unravel many of the long-forgotten secrets of the Noah story. During this program, our search for Noah's Ark will follow two paths. We will examine the ancient accounts and look for historical proof of the legend of Noah and the Great Flood. But our primary quest is to find genuine, convincing evidence of the Ark's existence, and ultimately to find the Ark itself. To do that, we'll trace the footsteps of the Ark hunters who have gone before us. We'll follow clues gathered from their early expeditions as we mount our own search to find the legendary Noah's Ark. Existence of the Ark has long been a topic of great controversy. It is normal and understandable for us to be skeptical of ancient accounts. That's why the first modern discovery of evidence of the Ark's existence created such excitement and brought on a rush of contemporary investigations. In the mid-1950s, Mount Ararat finally gave up its first 20th century physical clue to the Ark's existence and whereabouts. It was to be the beginning of a series of modern-day successes in cracking the secrets of the Ark. A French demolition engineer named Fernand Navarre first became interested in the Ark while serving in the military as a young man. Navarre began the first of a series of expeditions to Mount Ararat in 1952.
My Kurdish guides had abandoned me at the lower level of the mountain, and so I tried my best to proceed on my own. I was not able to find the Ark exposed, but I did see a massive dark shape frozen under the glacial ice. I knew then I would have to return to discover what it could be.
Navarre did return in July of 1955, accompanied by his young son, Raphael. What we see here is actual footage filmed by Fernand Navarre and his son during their expedition.
1955 was a warm year with the great glacial meltback. I know if I had a chance to reach the Ark, it would be now.
It was Raphael who first spotted something. Navarre carefully lowered himself deep into a crevasse at the 13,500-foot level.
The wood was easy to see, but was frozen into the ice. Still then, I had no idea how big it was.
What Navarre chopped from the ice was a 5-foot hand-hewn wooden beam.
I had dreamed of this. Raphael and I were excited like it was Christmas time. I tried to carry it down the mountain across my pack. It was very heavy. I could not keep my balance. We felt so bad that I had to cut the wood, but later I would have to cut it again to send out sample for testing.
A proud moment and fulfillment of a long-held wish. But was this actually wood from Noah's Ark? It was determined that the type of wood Navarre found does not grow near Mount Ararat. As a matter of fact, there's not a forest within 300 miles of the mountain. Navarre himself had the hand-hewn wood that he had found tested in 3 different laboratories. He was told that its age was around 5,000 years, clearly in line with the biblical account of the flood. The scientific test proved beyond question that something very old, something very mysterious was definitely on Mount Ararat. Fernand Navarre's exciting discovery had opened the door to a new generation of Ark hunters. Much of what we commonly know about the story of Noah comes from the book of Genesis in the Bible. Our investigation of the mysteries surrounding Noah's Ark shall begin with a simple question. Why would God destroy the world and nearly every person and every animal in it? The answer, according to the Bible, is that God saw great wickedness within his earthly creation. The Bible says God decided to destroy the living things of the world because man was living in corruption.
Whatever other sins that ancient man was guilty of, the archaeological records demonstrate he was an incredibly violent species.
Well, certainly violence has always been a part of man's ways. Both ancient Greek and Hebrew writings indicate there was a great deal of corruption and brutality among the people of Earth. There were many murders. Human life was cheap indeed. But God saw that one man and his family were righteous, the man who was called Noah. The Bible tells us God spoke directly to Noah, saying, "I am going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. Behold, I will destroy them with the earth." A close reading of the Bible tells us quite a bit about Noah. What we do know is that he had a wife. Together they had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Because Noah was a just man who walked with God, all of them, including the wives of Noah's sons, would be spared from the flood. Just 8 people in all. Some people contend that the story of Noah, along with much of the Bible, is nothing more than ancient legend with little basis in truth. But when scientists have gone digging for facts, some surprising findings have turned up. Charles Berlitz, author of numerous books, including The Lost Ship of Noah, is a renowned linguist and has studied the Noah flood account in detail.
In all the cultures I've studied, the story of Noah and the flood are practically identical in all different sorts of ancient languages, whether it's Persian, Babylonian, ancient Egyptian, Chinese, Sanskrit. The only thing that changes occasionally is the name of Noah. Not only does it appear in the Christian Bible, but also in the Quran, the Bible of Islam. There it tells the story of Noah, or Nuh in Arabic, who escapes the flood in an ark with his family.
These accounts certainly help support the Noah legend. But is there any archaeological evidence to back up these stories?
The flood account is found on Babylonian, Akkadian, and Sumerian cuneiform tablets, which are now found in the British Museum. There are accounts of the flood found in individual Chinese characters. Now, these Chinese characters really date back a long time. And we find the most ancient forms of Chinese character in bronzeware vessels. These are ceremonial vessels, and the writing is found inscribed inside of the vessels.
So, the naysayers to the contrary, we do find historical evidence of both Noah and the flood. 272 mentionings, to be exact, in every civilization and culture around the world, including the Aztec and Inca cultures the Spanish found in the New World. Our continuing quest for Noah's Ark centers on this totally treeless volcanic peak which borders on Iran and the former Soviet Empire. Mount Ararat rises to nearly 17,000 feet, covering 24 square miles. For a personal perspective of this forbidding mountain and its endless challenges, we visited with Dr. John Morris, a geology professor who has led 13 expeditions to Mount Ararat.
I've climbed mountains all over the world, but Mount Ararat is, I guess, it's brutal. It's just the worst I've ever climbed. Actually, from the south side, when you look at the mountain, it looks like a nice volcanic cone, but then on the opposite side, there's this incredible canyon called the Ohora Gorge. It's about 1.5 times the height of the Grand Canyon. There are vertical rock walls. I'm convinced they're unclimbable. It's covered with an ice cap year-round, and that ice cap is always eroding these volcanic layers, producing avalanches down below as it erodes along. Every afternoon there's a storm up on the mountain, and the winds sometimes are over 100 miles an hour.
But neither the ominous legends nor the lethal hazards of the climb have ever detoured the thousands of determined answer seekers. They have been challenging the mountain for hundreds of years.
We know that the Chaldean high priest and historian Berosus visited the site about 475 BC, where he wrote considerably of the phenomena he witnessed, stating that it was quite easy to discern the ark in its resting place high up on the glacier.
Hieronymus, the Egyptian historian of 30 BC, who authored an ancient history of Phoenicia, mentions the ark's existence on Mount Ararat. Also in the same period, Nicholas of Damascus, the biographer of Herod the Great, told of the ark's landing near the summit of Ararat and reported that timbers were still there.
Many, many celebrated men of antiquity made journeys to the awesome mountain. One of these was Epiphanius, the saintly bishop of Salamis in 360 AD, who was shown an already treasured relic of the Ark, a well-preserved and identifiable piece of a seagoing vessel structure. Armenian historian Hython said he himself saw the Ark in 1254. He wrote, "At the summit of Mount Ararat, a great black object is visible, the Ark of Noah." In 1269 AD, renowned explorer Marco Polo wrote in his book, The Travels, that Noah's Ark rests high in the snowy reaches of Mount Ararat.
There is plenty of ancient historical evidence spanning nearly 2,000 years that the Ark is on Mount Ararat. These sightings, recorded by prominent historians of the time, along with eyewitness accounts, add significant credibility to the survival of the Ark on Mount Ararat.
According to the Bible, the Lord instructed Noah to build the Ark of gopher wood in order to survive the flood. Obviously, gopher wood had to be very strong. Exactly what kind of wood was it?
Gopher wood is a process rather than a species. In Israel, in the olden days, they had a particular tree. They would cut the bark, collect the sap, and use it as glue and splice wood together. Once it hardened, you could not break the splice. The wood would break on either side. We don't have a ply tree, but we have plywood. What if gopher wood is a process and a laminated process?
Whether or not this process was used, the vessel was going to have to be incredibly strong because of its immense proportions. A length of 300 cubits by 50 cubits of width and 30 cubits of height, the cubit being about 18 inches. Just how big was it?
It had 1,500,000 cubic feet of space inside, which is the equivalent of 170 railroad boxcars. The Ark should be thought of in this perspective. Think of a 4-story apartment building almost a block long, and you've got it.
God told Noah to make the Ark with lower, middle, and upper decks. The construction of the Ark continued over many years. Noah's neighbors came to laugh and scorn as Noah and his family worked toward completion. The construction by hand of a floating vessel of these huge dimensions boggles the mind. How was it possible for Noah to have built the Ark on such a grand scale as recorded in the Bible without the use of modern technology?
If we look at the evidence left to us by ancient civilizations, we find that the further back we go, the more amazing are the accomplishments. The ancient Minoans were highly advanced. Some of the reconstructions of their temples that were destroyed catastrophically reveal that they had tremendous abilities, architectural skills and artistic design. We see their inlaid stone, natural ventilation, and air conditioning. We could go to Egypt and look at some of their artifacts, some of which are electroplated. Such electroplated artifacts have been found literally around the ancient world. The ancients were also able to make batteries and generate electricity. The ancient Mayans were able to calculate the solar year to be 365.2420 days, accurate to within 2/10,000ths of a day.
From this information, we can easily draw the conclusion that, in fact, ancient man had a highly developed technology, easily sufficient to build a vessel the size of Noah's Ark. By the mid-19th century, global communications helped to shrink the world significantly. This brought Western civilization more information, along with speculation and rumor about reported sightings of Noah's Ark. In 1829, a Russian-born German physician named Friedrich Parrot was the first Western explorer on record to scale Mount Ararat. Prior to the climb, Parrot visited the Armenian cathedral at Etchmiadzin in Soviet Armenia. There he viewed the cross, which was claimed to be carved of wood brought down from Noah's Ark in 318 AD. Parrot wrote that the carving measured 12 inches high, 9 inches across, and was brownish in color. From Etchmiadzin, Parrot climbed to the 7,000-foot level of the mountain, where he reached Ahora village. This was where the St. Jacob Monastery was located. There he saw ancient manuscripts and relics from the Ark. Parrot continued on all the way to the summit of Mount Ararat, but had no success in locating the Ark. In June 1840, 11 years after Parrot's expedition, Mount Ararat suffered a tremendous earthquake. The monastery and most of the 2,000 homes and buildings in the area were destroyed by the earthquake. Survivors were few. The St. Jacob Monastery and the relics it held literally disappeared under an avalanche of rocks from the shattered mountain, leaving behind the Ahora Gorge, a rugged canyon deeper than the Grand Canyon. Throughout the 1800s, adventurers, explorers, and people of faith continued expeditions to seek out the Ark. Herman von Abisch climbed to the Ararat summit in 1845, and 2 major glaciers on the mountain have been named after him. Colonel Kotsko of the Russian Army conquered the peak in 1850. An Englishman, Major Robert Stewart, made his climb in 1845. There are people who find difficulty in believing accounts of the past, merely because the stories are old. But can there be any doubt that at least some of the 19th century Ark seekers actually saw the Ark and brought back proof of its existence? Can skeptics simply write off this vast number of eyewitness accounts and sightings?
I have studied virtually every known historical sighting of the Ark on Mount Ararat. Over the past 150 years, many of these accounts of the sightings have gone into considerable detail. I have compared 34 of these sightings, and I found that there is a tremendous consistency between eyewitnesses, even though they never knew each other. We can choose to believe that all of these reports are based upon lies, or based upon the information presented by the eyewitness accounts. We can choose to believe that the Ark, or some large wooden barge, is on Mount Ararat, if just one of these reports is true.
With the completion of the great boat, God commanded Noah to bring unto the Ark 2 of all living creatures, male and female. Wouldn't the gathering of the animals have been a virtually impossible task? A feat beyond all probability?
The Bible says the animals shall come to the Ark. In this case, we wonder how the animals knew to come to this location. We think that instinctively they sensed from what was going on around about them that this impending disaster was about to happen. And as a result, they were led or even driven to seek a place of safety. Hence, the animals came to the Ark.
Even with the enormous size of Noah's floating vessel, many serious questions arise that clearly challenge the credibility of the entire Ark story.
The question I would ask is quite simple. How could 2 of every living animal be brought aboard any vessel? The sheer numbers and weight would overwhelm a fleet of arks. I don't believe we can take the story of the Ark literally.
Actually, the biblical record does not say that every species of animal in the world was in the Ark. Many kinds were in the ocean, whales and marine creatures of various types, and of course, the major insect varieties in the world were not included either. From studies that I and others have done, we estimate there could have been from 2,500 to 20,000 different kinds of animals taken aboard Noah's Ark.
Each family of creatures on the earth today have a single pair of ancestors. For example, even though there are over 300 varieties of dogs in the world today due to selective breeding, they have a single common ancestor. Considering the number of kinds of animals required to be put aboard the Ark, there would have been ample room to load the ancestors of all the species we know today, with room left over for Noah's family, food, and supplies.
Despite all the ancient accounts and reported sightings, most people over the years felt that the Ark story was just an old legend. Part of the problem was that there was only one widely known written account of Noah's Ark, the Holy Bible. The credibility of the biblical story of Noah got a big boost from an unlikely source in a most accidental fashion from this man. In the mid-1800s, George Smith, an engraver by trade, used to spend his lunch hours in the British Museum.
I was not a trained archaeologist, but I had an endless fascination for things of an historical nature. My special interest was with artifacts of ancient Assyria. Though I'd never been to that part of the world, I'd read extensively everything available on Middle Eastern cultures and was utterly captivated by the subject.
As a frequent visitor, Smith had struck up a friendship with the museum director, who was impressed by the man's intelligence and enthusiasm. Smith was offered a special job. Someone was needed to piece together some of the 25,000 clay cuneiform tablets unearthed in the ancient city of Nineveh dating back to the 6th century BC.
The next 10 years of my life were spent putting together these ancient clay tablets, but it was more than a complicated jigsaw puzzle. The inscriptions I translated from those tablets had a profound effect on the world of archaeology.
In 1872, after a decade of work, Smith came upon an account of a ship surviving a great flood and its coming to rest on a mountain, of a dove being sent out and not finding a place to land. The story told in these tablets, known as the Gilgamesh Epic, paralleled exactly the story of Noah in the Bible, suggesting the biblical account is far more than a fictional legend.